Welcome everyone to the Hobby Desk. Today I'm showing you how to paint my version of Magma swords. What do I mean by Magma sword? Well, it works perfectly on a demon, for example. So something like this. Something like that. So I think it works better for fantasy weapons. Things like, let's say, Warhammer 40k, power swords look fine, apart from anything with a power sword node doesn't kind of work because power weapons are a thing of power, as in electricity kind of thing, rather than a magma blade. But if you can cut it off the blade, it works perfectly well. Anything blade-like works perfect. So not necessarily just swords, works great for axes as well. I haven't tried it on a flail yet, but why not? Give it a go. So my method is, make sure you have at least 2 nice smooth coats of white on a blade so it really pops. And that's purely to make the yellow in the center shine just that little bit brighter, because yellow really isn't great for painting over things. So I'll zoom in slightly. Yeah, that's right, it doesn't work unless you make the noise. I will turn the brightness down of the lamp just slightly. There we go. So the white should shine proper. Okay, so should be fairly smooth white. And what I'm using for the center yellow is this from Games Workshop. Of course, whatever yellow you prefer. So it's going to be quite a punchy yellow, quite a bright yellow initially. And I like to put a nice smooth coat of it from the bottom all the way to the top. So it doesn't matter if you don't get the sides, as long as you get the center. So fairly smooth coverage, and this being yellow, it probably when it dries it won't look great. So you definitely need 2 coats, if not 3, because yellow really isn't great at covering. So I'll do that. I'll do it all over the blade, might as well, when I'm here. So it's a nice transition, just like that. And we'll wait for when it's dry. I'll put another coat on it. Okay, so once you have at least 2 decent coats of the yellow on there to get really smooth coverage, I generally use a slightly off yellow, more like a mustardy kind of yellow. So I've gone with a bit of Avalanche Sunset. So it's a slightly darker yellow. So the technique I'm using with this isn't really stabbing, it's not stippling, but it's certainly not smooth. So it's kind of like that effect. And it doesn't have to be mega neat. So what I'm doing is getting near enough to the center of the blade. The first coat of this probably won't show up that much. And don't worry about blending with this technique, because it really is foolproof. It doesn't have to be neat. It's got to be completely random. So kind of do it pretty fast, you know, don't think about it too much. So yeah, so you can just about see the center where the neat yellow is there. And I'm going to do the same on the other side while waiting for that to dry, because why not? So getting a little bit of paint on my brush. I'm not thinning it down, I'm not trying to blend it. And it doesn't matter if you put loads and loads of layers on for once, because the blade is super smooth, but if it was magma, it wouldn't be smooth like glass. You know, it would be definitely have a rocky kind of feel. It would be an uneven texture. So don't worry that you've put way too many layers on. You don't have to go super smooth, thin your paint really. Possibly slightly, because you always got to kind of thin your paint as soon as it comes out of the bottle. Especially with GW paints, I do find just add a little bit thinner. But yeah, pretty much like that. So I'll put 2 coats of that on, and then I'll go with an orange next. So I'm not going to go with a super bright orange. I'm going to go with a bit of a darkish, dirty orange. So I've gone for a blazing orange. But you could always just add a little bit of red to the Avalan Sunset and get darker. I mean, you don't have to use these paints at all. It's just the kind of colours I'm going for. So I'm going with a bright yellow, a darker yellow, fading into an orange, then a red, then a dark red, and then a black. So I'm going to work my way out from the centre of the blade, getting darker as I go. Okay, so adding a little bit of orange to it. I could go just with the neat orange, but I'm just kind of stabbing it again, swabbing it, I guess. Not quite stippling. Don't worry about covering randomly. Maybe going over a few places, overlapping by mistake. Just kind of adds to the effect. So just like that. And then I'm going to go with a red. So straight away, like I said, it's not really blending because it's not really thinned down. I'm going to stab in a few places there. So not spending too much time thinking about where I've got to go, not being too neat. So it's a pretty much foolproof way of doing this. A bit more red in my brush there. Just kind of poking it on, I guess. Because normally I would think that's probably a bit too heavy. Paint's a bit too thick. What's this crazy fool doing? You know, normally you would thin your paint a little bit more, and you certainly wouldn't put that much on a model, you know. I'm painting like I've just started the hobby again, you know. I haven't thinned my paints at all. So now I've gone with a darker red. So a corn red works pretty well. I'm trying to use up some of my old paints. So I think what am I using today? I'm using a scab red, I think. Red gore, in fact. So red gore, good old fashioned red gore, a little bit of that stuff. It's really quite a dark red. Like I said, I'm not blending it. I could spend ages. If this was a power sword, I would definitely be blending it. I wouldn't just be jamming random colours on top of each other. Be waiting for it to dry. I certainly would be a little bit neater, and I certainly would be thinning my paints. But like I said, this is pretty much a foolproof kind of way of doing it. So at the moment, it looks terrible. Looks like a 5-year-old's done it. So I will mix a little bit of the black in with the red gore. So it's like a really, really dark red now. Nigh on black, I guess. Just put it right on the very, very edges there. In a random fashion. And because the paint underneath is still a little wet, it kind of is blending slightly, I guess. But yeah, don't be afraid to really put this on in a haphazard manner. Not thinking about it, just doing it as fast as I can. Now I'm using this technique to paint eventually 90 blood letters, so I'm not going to worry too much about being neat. I just thought it was a cool effect. So at that stage there, then I probably would wait until it fully dries and then put neat black just on the tips and then start working the center again. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. Okay, so just like that, put it on quite thick so it gives it a lumpy texture, because I would imagine lava or magma isn't massively smooth. So I've got some neat yellow again now. I'm just dabbing it in a few places so it's massively neat. Now the neat isn't strong, not neat isn't tidy, because you can see that the overall blade really isn't at all. So I'm going to do it in what I think is the brightest areas, just like that. So the idea is this sword is quick, it's easy, looks a bit messy, and it looks pretty bad right up until the last stage. So then it actually looks like the edge of the blade is the coolest. It is like magma. It's thick, it's crusty, and in the center is the smoothest section. So it should be the most liquid, in my mind anyway. So that's how I do it. Basically, you could always add a little bit of white to that yellow just in the center when you do those little spots in the center to get as bright as you can. And I'll just show you that a second. So I've added a little bit of white to the strongest yellow, so whatever strong is your strongest yellow, and then I'll put a couple of dots in the center just to show that's the brightest part of the blade. So you can push it as much as you want, spend as much time on it, but I honestly think if you just stab it a little bit and be as quick as you can and make some random effects, that looks more realistic. So I've got a couple here from the same unit. You know, don't spend too much time on it, be as quick as you can, and produce some wicked magma effects. Thank you very much for watching, guys. It's a very quick video, it's a very basic tip, and like I said, it works fantastic with hordes. But if you want to spend some serious time and make a magma blade and blend it, that's totally fine. It's just a quick and easy effect, and it works a lot better from a distance. Okay, thank you guys. If you like this video, please hit the like button, and catch us next time for some more YouTube videos on tips or battle reports, terrain making. We are pretty random, and for more hobby greatness, check out House of Chaos community on our Facebook page, and feel free to put up some pictures of your hobby.